live.
Great, thanks. Welcome back to Senate Education on Wednesday, February 23rd. We're moving on to S-162, but before I do this, gentlemen, thanks for joining us. We received your memo this morning on S-219, and we have shared it with our Ledge Council. We're trying to get one of you, Sue Siglowski isn't available. I'm wondering, Mr. Fannin, you wouldn't mind coming in at 4. Our Ledge Council is in a disagreement over the parts having to do with discrimination, and I'd rather pull that apart between two good lawyers at 4 p.m. today, if that works for you. If not, perhaps Mr. Francis or Mr. Nichols could come in.
Well, I think certainly if there's a memo from Ledge Council on this, it would be helpful to have. So if they've got concerns with the written testimony, might be helpful. We're working, I think we shared with you, with some national constitutional law experts who I think we should run that by them too. So we'd like to get their best input. I do actually have a meeting today at 4.
Okay, could we, I think Ms. Siglowski is available tomorrow. Would you mind joining her tomorrow? We'll have Daphne set it up. It would be great to have both of you and Jim, so we can settle on some of these things as we're getting close to crossover. But with that, sure. Let's move to, okay, terrific. S-162. This is an act relating to collective bargaining rights of teachers. And we have with us Jay Nichols, Jeff Francis, and Jeff Fannin. And I know Sue Siglowski is also involved in these conversations. But to remind colleagues and those watching, this is a bill that Senator Perchlik put in, and we asked folks to come together, have some conversations, and see if we could find some middle ground. So with that, Mr. Nichols, you have been the lead on this for us. Your name is first here on our list. Would you like to
I'd like to punt it after I say a few opening remarks to Jeff Fannin. And the reason for that is Jeff has been working closely on a part of this bill with another attorney trying to get this right. So I think if we can open with him, I will say the same thing I said the other day. We are working together on this. Vermont NEA has been very involved in working with the superintendents and school boards. We've exchanged drafts. In fact, I saw a draft from Jeff Fannin on part of this language, I don't know, 12 minutes ago. So, you know, we are working on it. Jeff, why don't you give him a little bit of update from your perspective, my friend?
Sure, Jay. I think it was like an hour ago, but anyway, yeah, we are exchanging. So we met, thank you, Jeff Fannin for the record, Vermont NEA. Jay is correct from the Principals Association, Jeff Francis from the superintendents, and Sue Siglowski and others, some from their boards, some from my side, field person from the field, working with us. And we met on Thursday last week, had a good, productive hour-and-a-half conversation. As I've said when I testified, there are 3 aspects of the bill, I think, 162. One is the hiring, then there's the firing, and the testifying, to put it succinctly. I think we are in agreement on the the firing and the testifying. We met yesterday again for close to 2 hours, I think. And essentially, if anything, we're just a typo here or there, was what I would say on the second and third parts of the bill. The hang up is
just for, did you say the firing and the testimony? Those are the 2 that you're
correct. Addressing the Vermont Supreme Court decision in Clayton and responding to that is what I call the firing. How we process disciplinary matters. I think we're in agreement with that. We've been working. One of the people that the management associations brought was Chris Leopold, who represents several schools and has a real world understanding of how this plays out in the field. And I wanted to run it by one of the attorneys in our office too, to make sure that we had that same sense of how to work this. And I think we're in agreement on to that. I think we all agree that the parties should be allowed to bargain a different process which is what they had been doing, frankly, for 40 or 50 years prior to the Clayton decision. So that's just sort of going back in time and wanting to get the wording right, which I think we're there on that one. On the testifying portion, there was some discussion yesterday about that and trying to figure out where that fits and how it words. But I think conceptually there again, I think we're in agreement to protect employees who might appear before your committee, say, for example, and testify, and that they wouldn't be subject to discipline. And likewise, we want to make sure that they don't reveal confidential matters. So the language, I think we got it from Jim Desmarais, was the language out of that covers the state employees. So it's mirroring that more or less, tailoring it to work for educators, but more or less the state employee. The hang up is the hiring process. And Jay is right. I did send, it wasn't 12 minutes ago, Jay, but it wasn't weeks ago either. Within the hour, I sent a new draft for their consideration on the hiring process. We had, as I said, lengthy conversation yesterday, tried to hear some of their concerns, and that's what we're trying to iron through right now. So I think in fairness to my management friends here, they ought to be given a few minutes with that and their counsel. And hopefully, I would say by tomorrow, we should be able to either have agreement on that or know that we don't, and would then come back to you with that. But essentially, I think in items 2 and 3, I think we're there. But I'll leave that to they haven't formally said that, but I responded and didn't change much, an A to a the, for example. So
okay,
modest changes.
Mr. Nichols or Mr. Francis, do you want to comment at this point on where things stand?
I think Jeff Fannon's portrayal is accurate. And
Great.
Jeff, we have another version of the language in the first one that Chris Leopold is going to be contacting you about to share with you, and hopefully have the two of you work together to try to kind of, figure out the little bit of remaining stuff that we have. And hopefully we'll be able to do that. And if we can't, it won't be for lack of an effort. And again, B and C, I think we're in substantial agreement on both of those.
Thank you. Mr. Francis?
The only thing I would add is what a pleasure it's been to work with Jay and Jeff and Sue on this. Thank you for asking us to put our heads together on it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Senator Perslick?
Thank you, Chair. Can one of our guests / witnesses remind us how this is dealt with in the other states? I think I remember we got testimony in one of our neighbor states, doesn't have a date, that the teachers can just leave up to the day before school, which we're not trying to do here. But I don't remember hearing kind of what the general lay of the land is in all the other states. Do people know that off the top of their heads?
I only know New Hampshire and New York well. I don't know everywhere else. And in New Hampshire, it's free for all. You can go whenever you want to go.
And in New York?
New York is, I think they have you have to give 2 weeks notice, Jeff Fannin, does that sound right? Something like that.
Yes, but you can do that anytime, Senator
Right.
Persley.
Could be in the middle of the year. Yeah. Which we definitely don't want to see happen to Vermont schools.
Other question? Please go ahead, Senator Perslick.
Sorry, I didn't jump in front of Senator Hooker there, but just to follow up on it. If anybody does have, maybe somebody has done this already, a scan of how all the other states deal with this, it would be nice to have. I don't want to create a bunch of homework for somebody, but maybe it's already done out there somewhere.
I will ask my national folks. I have never heard that, Senator Perchik, that somebody has a chart or some spreadsheet on that. I will ask. I don't know. I've never heard that. Every state's a little bit different, as you can imagine, but might be good to know what others are doing. NCSL
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
might also be a resource that I don't have access to that you might.
If I may, Chair Campion.
Yeah,
One of
Senator
the-
Hooker just has her hand up, if you don't mind.
I want to go off in a different direction.
Okay, so Mr. Francis, please.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is the time and effort that has been put into this was accurately reported by Jeff Fannin. We've got about 4 hours into it so far. And what we're trying to do is, and I think that S-162 contemplates this, we're trying to reconcile the ability for teachers to have movement in their employment settings with the stability of the school districts in terms of quality of education and planning. So I'm respectful of Senator Perchlik's interest in what other states are doing. I would say that as we sit here right now, we're trying to hit the sweet spot in terms of being fair to employees and also having school districts well situated to serve their kids in their communities. And, you know, there are some unique features in Vermont because we've got districts in relatively close proximity to one another along transportation corridors, but pretty dramatically different socioeconomics in terms of both the districts themselves and the you know, overall. So it's challenging to try to meet in the middle, but that's what you've asked us to do, and I'd say that we're coming close to it.
Yes, Senator Perchlik.
Just a follow up before we go down whatever road Senator Hooker wants to take it on this. And I agree with what Mr. Francis just said. I don't want to, if they're going to meet and find this place in the middle, then my question is kind of moot. But I would want to know if they don't come forward with an agreement, we're going to have to think about what we do want to do. So having knowing what other states at that point would be helpful. But I definitely would rather have a Vermont solution than something at some other state.
Senator Hooker.
Again, I really appreciate your coming together on this and trying to come up with a solution. Makes it easier for us. But I do want to ask, because anecdotally, I've been hearing, stories about teachers who have left during the pandemic. And I'm curious to know how those situations are handled. People in the middle of the pandemic have left and not.
I mean, during the academic year itself?
During the academic year, yeah. And I don't know if you have, some thoughts on that and can fill us in on how you've managed that, especially in these times of workforce shortages.
I will unmute and give it a try, Senator Hooker. So we don't manage it. What we do is we hear from folks. We have on many occasions suggested that they not leave in the middle of the year. But as you pointed out, some people have just done it and have not been wanting to continue teaching. So at the semester break, I think last year I looked at some of the numbers out of the treasurer's office. There was a tick up last year out of the norm on the number of people who retired, say into January 1 of last year. I haven't seen numbers from this year, but I imagine it might be up a little bit over previous years. And we've tried to encourage people to stay, but understand that they have a right to terminate the contract for good cause. And if they can't teach or they're, for whatever reason, the penalty, if you will, is that they can't teach for the remainder of the school year. And that's under current law. So they can't quit in one school and grab another job in another school and teach in the same school year. So that's the penalty under current state law.
And principals have reported that there have been a number of staff that have just walked away. Not teachers necessarily, although there have been some teachers. And I've also had a couple principals actually just walk away from the profession, which I've never experienced before. So it's, it's definitely tough out there. In terms of what schools are doing, really their number one responsibility right now is getting it covered and making sure the kids can have in-person school. and teachers and support staff have done a phenomenal job along with principals, just getting things covered. But it's nowhere near normal. It's nowhere near where we need to be if we really want to make, growth for our students. But it's an issue for sure. And the other thing that's hurting, when you have an economy where there's a lot of job openings, and my understanding is we have around 25,000 job openings according to the State Forest Work Board. The other day they said there was 25,000 openings. Well, a lot of those places that are advertising are hiring away support staff from schools because they pay more, and people are, working in school is really tough right now. So we've got plenty of support staff that are leaving to take jobs in other industry, which is something they absolutely can do. So that's an impact as well, Senator Hooker.
Thanks. It certainly emphasizes the effect that the pandemic has had. It certainly emphasizes, the stress that the education system is under. And we appreciate everything that you're doing to hold it together.
And just to add to that, I really do appreciate the four of you coming together and having these conversations. I know, as I believe it was the superintendent, Mr. Francis will recall his name better than I, perhaps Caledonia, I'm not sure. But long story short, saying that this bill comes up year after year after year after year, I for one just don't like punting things to other legislative sessions. And so when we can deal with them, I feel a lot better doing so, and as does the committee. So I really appreciate it. And we'll look then, I think the next step for us would be when you have an agreement, if one of you would share that with us. Over the next couple of days, we can have it drafted. And then when we return, we'll take some testimony from others, but knowing that the four of you are on board certainly gives me confidence it will move forward before crossover. So while we have you, not having the treasurer for another 10 minutes, and since you booked 30 minutes with us, S139, this is the mascot bill. And I'm sorry, committee, any other questions on this before I move to S139? Okay, so S139, the mascot bill, the Agency of Education came in and proposed new language in a new, that we have put in a new draft. If it's okay with the four of you, what I'd like to do, just given timing, and is send the new draft to the four of you for review. And then however you want to do it, if you want to come in briefly tomorrow, if you want to just let us know what you think, if you have concerns, something like that. I know you've all spoken on it. This is, in a way, I'd say to kind of give you a quick overview, it's putting more, it's really returning it not to the some of these decisions to the State Board of Education, but more to the Agency of Education, and also putting more, given some additional direction to the school boards themselves to make decisions. So we'll send you that language, and the committee, I think, generally feels good about it. It also gets us to the point where we did hear some testimony, some concerns from, particularly, I think, the Native American community and the BIPOC community that didn't like the state board being the, an unelected body, basically making the final call on some of these things. And so it's shifted to the Agency of Education. So, I mean, that's a kind of a not very articulate overview of some of the direction that we're moving in, but I will ask Daphne to send you a new draft. Yeah, Jay, Mr. Nichols.
Yeah, I know I talked to several of the Native American leaders prior to them testifying, and I actually told Judy Dow to contact you after she talked to me, but the Agency of Education aren't elected officials either.
Well, what they are, they're governor appointees. So, for example, the governor and elected officials, we elect the governor, he or she puts certain people in place and has influence over how those kinds of decisions are made. And could be said, perhaps more represents the values of the state than an unelected board. Not sure if that's.
And I'm not arguing the point. I just was trying to understand.
No, I understand.
Okay.
I think the best thing to do is, Daphne, if you would send that to everybody. It's been sent to us.
Yep, I will forward that along.
If you would send that right now, that would be great, to our Sue Siglowski, Jeff Fannin, Jeff Francis, and Jay Nichols. And when you have an opportunity, just we'll have you probably in either quickly tomorrow, or it would be great to be able to move this on Friday before we leave. So great. Okay. Anything else from any of you at this point? Okay. We'll look
Thank
forward to continuing the conversation, and I know we'll see one, if not all of you, tomorrow on mascots and 219. So thanks for helping us with this final push. Okay, we're just waiting on the treasurer, and this the treasurer's office did send just a little while ago testimony on H572. I don't know if Daphne's had an opportunity to post it yet. I don't even know if she was given a copy yet. Daphne, did you receive a copy? What's that?
I don't believe I received a copy of
Okay.
that. If you can forward that to me.
Anybody want to cover anything while we're waiting?
Just a question, Senator Campaigner.
please.
Is there anything on the agenda that we're going to vote on today?
No.
Okay, my tablet is the battery's getting a little low, so I may have to call in for the later part of our session.
Great. Okay. Thanks for letting us know. Have a safe. Where are you now?
Are we on Zoom?